This Pitch Breakfast video is brought to you by Spangler and Agins, attorneys for Charlotte's startup community.
Consumer packaged goods companies, CPGs, spend upwards of $50 billion a year for point-of-purchase materials, putting new products on the shelves, market development funds they pay to retailers, and those cardboard stands of product that you trip over in the stores. Now, you might think you know what you get for your $50 billion these days. Sit down with a brand manager or an account executive from a CPG, and they'll all tell you the same story. Yeah, we had this one big promotion going with the retailer, so I went out and checked the 6 stores around where I live, and I could only find the promotion in 4 of them, 2 of them completely absent. That's my experience as well in Ahold, an international supermarketer, and at Family Dollar, that for any given project, 30 to 50% of the stores don't execute it. Which, when you think about it, you've got hundreds of locations. You've got maybe thousands of locations in a chain doing dozens of promotions every week. How do you keep up with all that? And so you've really got, of that $50 billion, 15 to 25 of it that's wasted. How do you solve that problem? How do you get the accountability? Well, you can find the solution to that over here on aisle Z. That's our company. Let me show you how it works. First off, you as the CPG representative, you negotiate a program with your retail partner as usual. Retail partner sets up the instructions for that, photos, planograms, how to do it, normal information that they set up in aisle Z portal, browser-based. That goes down to the stores, and the stores will get it on a mobile device, a store tablet, or a personal phone. It's got the instructions. The store associate sets up that end cap, sets up that cardboard stand that you're going to trip over, and takes a couple pictures of it. So far, so good. And then the magic happens, right? So we've got, in the background, image recognition finds the product packaging, the point-of-purchase materials, and we'll check off that project. Okay, image recognition isn't that magic, but think what's happened there. We've gone from not knowing what's going on in thousands of stores to knowing right now what's going on in thousands of stores. We bridged the physical to the data world. When I demo this to CPG folks out in the store, you can see the light bulb come on above their head. They say, oh, I could know today, not at the end of the month, if my promotion's set. Yeah. And I could work with my retail partner to make sure that all the stores get it set. Yeah. I could even check in the middle of the promotion and make sure that we've got good stock levels. Yeah, that's right. So what we've done is aisle Z takes all that activity and brings it down to, really, a pie chart that says incomplete and complete, and a button that says text message the incomplete stores. There's text messaging and some communication built into this. So we've got a way to cheaply and simply collect information. 2, to manage it because of the immediacy and the texting built in. And 3, taking that $15 to $25 billion and making it profitable again. Oh, but wait, that's not all. If you're a CPG, think again. You now know where your promotions have executed. So you know where they're most profitable and where they're less profitable. You might turn to your retail partner and say, I'd like to do that promotion again in these 700 stores and not in these 300 stores. And if you're the retailer, you might say, oh, great. I'm going to charge you a little premium to do it in those 700 stores, and I'm going to find someone else for the other 300 stores to use that space. And I can charge them a little premium because it fits their shopper profile. You've got an optimization problem here. Okay, thanks. Which is our keystone product. So here's how we make money. aisle Z in-store charges a monthly fee per CPG per retailer. We've got unique data, so we offer analytical services. And then finally, the marketplace charges a fee, membership fee, and then a per bid fee to execute all that. Here's where we stand. aisle Z in-store is built. We're closing in on 2 pilots. By year 2, we expect to break even. Year 3, we project $8 million revenue, and year 4, when the marketplace is fully in place, $25 million at an 88% margin. And what we're looking for to make this all happen is just $400,000. We need that to do a little bit of tech polishing and to fund the sales effort. So again, aislez, we make the collection of this data that's across thousands of stores, make it simple and cheap. Okay. I can finish the sentence, right? Simple and cheap, make it manageable because of the immediacy and the built-in text messaging, and making that $15 to $25 billion of waste profitable again. Thank you for shopping with us on aisle Z.
All right, panelists, what do you think?
It's me, yeah. I was just going to do real quick, substantive feedback on the slides. The wrap up with numbers, just put that on a slide because we're all, like Dan was writing so fast, the whole table almost fell over. So I kind of think I remember what the numbers are, but definitely put those out next time when you're closing. Because it's a good close, just needed to have the facts in front of us versus all audible.
Thanks, Mark.
Yeah.
So I'll do my standard, for any startup investor pitch, right? So the most important thing that I look at for any startup is the team, and the team, and the team. And honestly, you didn't really talk a lot about your background or what your team looks like. So I think you need a little more focus on that.
So I'll kind of piggyback on that. I think understanding from somebody who doesn't have experience in the packaging and retail world, I thought your analogy was really good of tripping over the cardboard, box and display. I thought you got us all engaged onto where and what the problem can be. Talking a little more detail about why it doesn't happen. You talked about the big dollar amount, how things, this doesn't go used. Why doesn't it?
I should have started by saying I did enjoy the presentation, and I think the flow was good. I like the fact that you talked to us as opposed to staring at the slides, so good on that. A couple of other points. Adoption of this, right? You've got this interesting mix, and again, there's a bit of a marketplace model, so you've got a lot of, you got at least a three-legged stool, right, of different parties that are going to be interested.
Yes.
And the economic value really accrues to the CPG companies, right? And then the question is, how do you actually get the retailers to play? Right? Because I look at this, and the analogy I would use is I've been in some big institutions where they've tried to roll out CRM solutions, right? And the problem with a lot of CRM solutions is the end users don't use it. And if the end users don't use it, then the CRM solution is useless and a waste of money. And I've seen people waste a lot of money on those solutions. And that's my big question for you is, I get why if the CPG companies are wasting $15 to $20 billion of spend each year, that's a huge motivating factor for them, right? But the retailers are getting paid for those product placements and product positioning and end shelf, everything, end caps, all of that stuff. But what's in it for them? So I think that's a big question you need to address.
Yeah, I agree with Dan. I actually like the pitch. It was relatable. I got it quickly. So some feedback on after you kind of set the hook with this is what it is. Like it was very clear what market problem you're addressing. That was done very effectively. In the investor pitch, I guess, when the money ask is coming, I would have liked to have heard a little bit more and seen a little bit more on what the pilot's goals and objectives are, right? So my impression of your company now is that it's got some mojo, but it's still early. If you were kind of one pen stroke away from a real pilot that might actually pay you, I'd want to emphasize that, especially if I was thinking about like investing in the company. So it's hard for me to know like how far along you are towards that pilot. If you're like, closer to the pilot than I actually perceive, I'm going to be way more likely to consider investing in this deal because that kind of shows some openness in the market and that you're actually able to move quickly and very efficiently. So I would actually outline in a slide like goals and objectives. Here's what I'm trying to get out of this next pilot or these two pilots, and I'm, one signature away or 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks away from approval on those pilots. Put some more substance around that. That was all I really had on specifics on the pitch. I think you get closer to investor pitch if you make it more like a real business. It still felt a little bit hypothetical. You kind of hit like, I'm going to do 8 million, I'm going to do 12 million in revenue. It was like, okay, so you're still coming off like aspirational entrepreneur. I think I'm going to crush this thing. And if you're a little closer to that pilot, I'm going to give you a lot more credibility on actually getting some traction and getting this in the market to validate pricing, validate the technology, and then you also want to prove that you're validating the product market fit, that these companies can actually get the people in the stores to download the app, to take the picture, to feed your analytical system and backbone.
And as Mark said, you ran through kind of the financial piece of what you were doing so quickly. Even though I was shaking the table, I still couldn't quite get it all captured, right? And I think what would have been helpful there was, typically, in the startup, you're going to do a top-down, right, a TAM, total addressable market kind of thing, and you did that a little bit. At least you threw the carrot out there of this is a $15 to $25 billion problem. It would have been nice to do a little bit more of a bottom-up, right? That in year 3, rather than asserting you're going to be at 8 million, what does it actually take for you to get to 8 million, right? How many stores, how many and I presume the revenue's coming from the CPG companies, and how many of them does it take to get you to that revenue, and do kind of that bottom-up forecast.
So I'll jump to the software. You had a nice screenshot that kind of walked through, aislez and how the product works. But I think you left me hanging from the standpoint of it's good to see that screenshot, and you made a comment about they can, if you're the CPG, the product manager, you can see that it's completed. Just walk through how they would see it's completed. Is it just a picture of the display? Is it an ongoing picture? Is this something that you need buy-in from somebody at the store? To verify that the setup is still complete, still product, still packaged. As a software guy, I love software, and it's really hard when you're in the box to make sure that your description of your software is short and succinct, because we can always get pulled down, into that world. But I thought it was a good summary.
One last question. Retailers, have you? I'd love to have heard a little bit more about why the retailers care, and what big retailers have you talked to that might be interested. And when you're doing if you're doing a pitch in Charlotte, it would have been interesting to have you talked to Lowe's, have you talked to Family Dollar, have you talked to Belk, right? And what are their reactions?
I'm good.
Thank you.
I'd love to know the answer to the question. How far along are you on the discussions with retailers? Like, how far along, or where are the kind of feedback points from retailers locally or nationally?
Yeah, I'll answer. Do I have some time? Okay, I don't want to. You didn't, Brian. Originally, we built the product to pitch it to retailers. They're the ones who have the pinch point, right? And got, just being frank with you guys, got enthusiastic indifference from the retailers. Right? They're getting their check. They're fat and happy in the whole situation.
Exactly.
You put your finger on it.
Yep.
And so we turned to the CPGs as the party in the three-way transaction. You're right about that as well. That has got the leverage to do a little bit of arm twisting in this. There are pieces of this, and we were aware from the beginning that we need to get the retailer on board in the corporate sense, as well as at the store level, because it has to be something compelling for that associate to bother to pull this out of their pocket, right? Not just, hey, you need to get this work done, because they can overlook it as well. And so that's why the workflow, trying to make it as simple as possible, that's why that is in there. It's aimed to try to save some time and make it simpler for the stores to execute. So for the retailer, I can say you're going to be able to increase sales because you're going to have the right promotions that are going to be set out there. Save some time operationally, that's their biggest expense. And when we get to the marketplace, then there's the idea that they'll be able to optimize their promotions, increase sales yet a little bit more, as well as nudge the CPGs to get a little bit more of a premium for that properly allocated space.
Yes. So one point of feedback on that there's another company I was mentioning to you that I advise in Boston. It's actually very similar, but in the restaurant space. And you're asking fundamentally for a behavioral change at the retailer to drive adoption of your product, improve value prop. So I kind of want to hear that you recognize that as part of your pilot, because that's what I think. Your big execution risk in the pilot is that this thing goes out and the memo goes out and then nothing happens, and 6 months later your pilot kind of falls flat because some 25-year-old store associate was like, I didn't feel like I had to do this, like no one really figured this out for me.
Right.
So the whole success of your product could be hinged just on that, which is kind of scary. So I would try to attack that really hard up front and prove the investor that like I've got that under control.
All right, let's give that.